Right, hello everybody. As you can probably hear, I still have man flu, which leads me to two apologies. The first of which is that obviously I'm doing another video indoors, which is a bit boring, and the second is that you might be able to hear my breathing quite a lot through this video because, well, I haven't got used to my nose. Okay, so this video is basically revisiting a topic that I talked about 4 or 5 months ago now on a video called Why I'm Ditching Full Frame Cameras, which to date is by far the most viewed video on my channel. It's also the most disliked video by a long way. And as far as I could tell in the comments, those dislikes came from two groups of people. The first were people who were just loved full frame basically, probably had tattoos on their arms saying full frame forever, and would probably be unwilling to listen to any argument about a photographer benefiting from sensors other than full frame sensors, whether they're logical or not. And the second group of people, as far as I could tell from the comments, were people who could agree with me, but just thought I'd made a bit of a naff video and just a rubbish attempt at trying to explain my opinions. And that's fair enough, and those people in those comments are the reason that I'm having a second stab today. So I'm just gonna basically have another try at explaining myself as to why I'm getting rid of this and changing it specifically, now I know, for a Panasonic G9. Now whether you saw that initial ditching full frame video or not, if you've not seen any videos since, you won't know that I've been testing a Panasonic G9 that Panasonic sent me at the start of the year. I love it, it's going to be my full-time workhorse camera. But as much as I love it, I'm quite pleased that it hasn't turned up yet because, well, had it turned up in time for me to do this video, I'd have had to put it next to this Nikon D750, and you'd have seen that the size difference and the weight difference is minimal, which is a little bit embarrassing given that I spent quite a lot of time of that previous video talking about how weight was a big factor in why I was leaving full frame. Also in my G9 review, which I'll link here, I did find that the dynamic range of that brand new 2018 Panasonic G9 wasn't as good as the Nikon D750s. Pretty much the same story with noise and resolution. Well, this has 24 megapixels and the G9 has 20. Why did I change cameras again? So in that initial video I made another point where I was talking about the difference in image quality between a D750 and at the time I think it was what I'm shooting on now, which is G85, a Panasonic G85, and I was saying that the difference was pretty much impossible to see or minimal at best. And if you're not pixel peeping, that is definitely the case. I would challenge any photographer to be able to distinguish the difference between a G85 and a D750 or any modern enthusiast or pro crop camera versus a full frame camera. If you can tell the difference between the images they produce without knowing which camera produced them, then you're Superman as far as I'm concerned. But to me, that doesn't particularly matter, and it's by the by, because as a photographer, as somebody who earns my money from creating images, if you look at one of my images and you notice noise, or you notice a lack of dynamic range, or a lack of sharpness, or any other imperfection with a technical aspect of the image, then I as a photographer have failed, because clearly you're not looking at the story that I've tried to portray. You're distracted by one of the camera's deficiencies, and I haven't taken a photo of something interesting enough to hold your attention and stop you looking for imperfections within the image. But since I view my job as not trying to get the lowest amount of noise possible, or not trying to get the most amount of dynamic range possible, since my job is about telling stories, I need to use tools that are going to help me tell stories best. And that is where a crop sensor comes in. Let me explain. So here, ladies and gentlemen, is a 24-70 f2.8 full frame zoom lens. This is an equivalent lens. This is a 12-35, which is the same focal length in full frame, and it's also an f2.8. And as you can see, it is absolutely tiny. Now, before you start typing away telling me that the aperture is not the same because the depth of field is in fact double on Micro Four Thirds. I know that, and if you're, you know, like a food photographer or maybe a portrait photographer or any other kind of photographer where you're aiming for shallow depth of field a lot, then there's a good chance that full frame is just better for you. But if you're a photographer like me who shoots a lot of landscapes and therefore with full frame shoots at kind of f8 and f10 a lot, then you might just benefit from a Micro Four Thirds or a crop system camera, because this, as I say, has double the depth of field at equivalent apertures, which means that rather than having to shoot at f8, I can shoot at f f4 with this and therefore gather much more light, have much faster shutter speeds and have much lower ISOs. And what that means in practice is that I get many more keepers and I rarely have to take a tripod, particularly with the G9 in this lens or even this lens, because there are 6.5 stops of stabilization, which means I pretty much never need to take a tripod anyway. Also, since I picked this up, this is a 70-200 f2.8 equivalent, and well, yeah, it's titch. So yeah, I mean, you might look at these two lenses and think, why on earth did you switch your equipment with all the expense and faff that entails for this weight saving? I mean, yes, it looks reasonably significant, but it's still only a matter of a couple of 100 grams or whatever it might be. But the thing is, by the time you do that for the entire system, and I mean, if you imagine a 70-200 full frame lens here, and then ultra wides and a couple of primes, by the time you've got a full system in place, the weight saving is significant, particularly because with this system, the Micro Four Thirds system with its stabilization, and the fact that I can shoot with wider apertures and therefore don't often need a tripod, that's where the weight saving comes in, and that's where climbing up a mountain to take photos becomes much easier, much more efficient, and enables me to get many, many more photos. In that initial video, I also made a point about security guards and how when I was shooting with a big DSLR, particularly with a long lens on it, and I had to use a tripod, then I'd attract a lot of attention in like cities and stuff when I was accidentally on private land, and security guards would come over and tell me off and tell me that I need a permit. That is true in a lot of places in a lot of cities around the world. Some people are commenting saying, oh, you need a permit whenever you shoot in the UK. No. If you're somewhere like London or New York or Singapore or Sydney or any major city and you're near big buildings or skyscrapers or colonial town halls, whatever it might be, a lot of the time they own land around the actual buildings themselves, and you can be on it taking photos, and if you're attracting attention, security guards will come over and ask you if you've got a permit. That's the same in any big city around the world. It doesn't just have to be the UK. And I've found, I don't know why it is, but with a camera like this, through years of using a camera like this, it attracts many, many more security guards than a smaller camera with a smaller lens setup. Regardless of how capable these little lenses are, they don't look like professional lenses yet. And whether it's true or not, security guards expect tourists to use things like this and professionals to use things like this. And therefore, if you're a pro and you use things like this, you can often get away with shooting hassle-free in places that you couldn't with something like this. But no, it's got nothing to do with the fact you need a permit to shoot anywhere in the UK. You don't. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. This is going on eBay tonight, and I hope I've done a slightly better job than last time of explaining why I've decided to leave this and go to a crop sensor. I know a crop sensor has limitations. I know that the image quality isn't quite as good, but for my purposes, I'm able to extract more from that particular sensor than I can from something like this. And it doesn't mean that anybody else should find exactly the same thing, and it doesn't mean that this is less capable than what I've bought. It just means that it's better for me. So yeah, hopefully that was a bit more clear with a bit less overexposed B-roll. But thanks for watching. Outside of my man flu, I don't think I've got any other news, really. Oh, no. I haven't thanked anyone yet for buying the absolutely nothings. If you don't know what absolutely nothings are, basically I did a video a couple of weeks ago explaining that one of the ways you can help this channel grow is you can buy absolutely nothings on my website. They cost £1 each, and basically what you get for that is absolutely nothing, and what I get is a bit more of an opportunity to spend more time making videos on this channel, hopefully grow it, which will hopefully mean that in the future there will be more and better content coming from it. And maybe not just me sat at a table with man flu talking about why I'm switching cameras, because I'm sick of this topic. Also, another bit of news is I bought this, which, as you might be able to tell, is pretty much the biggest thing I own, apart from a car. It's a Canon Pixma Pro 10S. It's not the biggest printer they make by any means, but it's an A3 Plus printer, and I'm going to sell some prints from it, which will be exciting. I'll do a video about that in a week or two, but for the time being, know that I will spend a day or two, I'm sure, trying to work out, well, how to get this out of the box first. I mean, I don't know where I'm going to put it. As you might know if you've watched this channel for a while, I live in a one-bed flat in the middle of a city, so I don't... Probably should have thought about that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much if you've bought absolutely nothings. It really, really makes a difference. And going forward, I hope this channel can only get bigger and better. I really appreciate the support. But yeah, hopefully next time I have less man flu, and I'll be outside. I'm pretty sure I said that at the end of the last video. Until the next time, when hopefully I don't look like I'm going to die. So, we'll see. Thanks for watching.